Now, this week, we turned our attention to America's makers and takers. The most important part of that equation, of course, are the makers who innovate and grow the economy. Tonight, we focus on one of those people, Chris Zane. He started his bike shop when he was just 16 years old, and over the years has built into one of the biggest bike retailers in the country. He joins us now on Scoreboard. Good to see you here, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
This is one of the bikes, obviously, you sell. It's a fancy one. How much does this cost?
It's about $2,200.
Ooh, wow, a little bit. But you do the whole gambit, right?
I know. And you figure if you're going to have something for 10 years, $220 a year is a pretty inexpensive investment.
It's true, but I mean, you do start up bikes.
We do. We start at $129 and go all the way up.
But as important as the actual product is, the most important thing, I think it's fair to say, is service, right, from your perspective?
Well, in my perspective, and I think in small business perspective, relationships with the customer and taking the commodity away from the product and creating a relationship with the customer is really what you're trying to
What
do.
is that when you say take the commodity away from the product? What is that? What do you mean by that?
Well, a bike's a bike. You can go to any place and buy a bike. You can go to Walmart and buy a bike. Now, it's very different, but you can buy a bike in different places. But when you buy a bike from us, we're not selling the bike. We're selling fun, recreation, physical fitness, togetherness. And we're also backing it up with a service offering. So if you need something, we're there for you. And we create a need for us to be there and for us to take care of you.
Now, the best business people and best entrepreneurs that I know say that they learn much more from their mistakes than they do from their success. You say your first mistake, probably your biggest mistake, was you focused more on the product than you did on the customer. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think when we started, I think everybody thinks when they start a business, they're selling stuff rather than building relationships. So I was focused on the brands that we had and the pricing model, and I was trying to compete with my competitors in a way that was tied to the physical product. And then I figured out, after making some mistakes, that I needed to engage the customer to become involved in the sport and be part of the relationship of our store so that we could service them, fulfill their needs over a lifetime instead of an individual.
What kind of mistakes did you make? I mean, did you say to customers, I'm sorry, it's the bike's fault, it's not the bike's fault, it's your fault, you've been mistreating the bike, or what?
Well, there's some conversations like that, but my biggest mistake was that I had actually opened up a second store, not realizing that I was in the service business, and I thought that I was selling a commodity. So if I had lots of locations, I could, grow the business. And after 10 weeks, I realized that, we weren't going to be able to stay in business if I didn't close that store. So at that point, I went back and I said, it's all about the customer. The customer is going to tell us what they want. The customer is going to tell us what they want to pay. The customer is going to tell us what service offerings they want to have. And we're going to engage them and give them all those things. And then we're going to figure out how to be profitable by doing that. And so customer first rather than here's our product.
Do you think that is true, that the service is more important than the product in every business? Do you think there's any business that's an exception to that?
No, I think the service associated with the product, people don't buy things to have things. They buy things to use them and to be a participant in whatever it is. You don't buy a toaster because it's made out of steel and it's got an element inside. You buy a toaster because you want toast. Well, if somebody can show you how to make better toast, or the product and the companies that manufacture the toasters can show you how to make better toast, then their value is the service they're providing, not the physical box.
How do you impress upon your employees, particularly your managers, that this is the most important thing?
Well, they're engaged, but more importantly, they're empowered. So they know that the relationship that they have with the customer is their responsibility to fulfill. If the customer has a problem, they go back to that person. That person does whatever it takes to say yes so that they can satisfy the problem and make them happy.
So you personally give a lot of responsibility to everybody down the line.
Every employee in my organization is empowered to do whatever it takes to satisfy the customer. I had an email today from a customer who was really happy because he came to pick up his bike yesterday and it wasn't ready. It was our fault. And the person he worked with told him he would bring it to him after work that night. My employee threw it in the car, brought it to his house, dropped it off. The guy called me today and said, hey, you guys are rock stars. Now, my employee...
I love that. That is, you can't buy that. I mean,
right,
that's
he doesn't
worth
get extra
millions.
for that. That's just what our environment, that's our culture of our organization, is to basically whatever the customer wants, we give them. One of the things that makes the reason for that is because we realize that we're dealing with a customer over a lifetime. If you look at all the bikes that somebody's going to buy, the first bike at 4, 8, 12, graduating from high school and college, midlife crisis bike, retirement bike, they're worth $12,500 to us.
But giving the individual responsibility, the guy on the floor, from the guy on the floor up to the senior managers, everybody has a responsibility and individual right to deal with the customer as they see fit.
Exactly. And if they make a mistake, they give too much away, we might have a conversation. Hey, you could have done that for a little less money, or you could have come up with a different solution. But at the end of the day, they're not reprimanded for making an expensive decision. They're reprimanded for not taking care of the customer.
That's terrific stuff. By the way, you put it all in a book, Reinventing the Wheel. I imagine a lot of this advice is in this book, right?
It's all in there. It's a it's to plant seeds. It's not a how-to book. It's to make you think about how you're engaging with your customers, how you're interacting with your customers, so that the customer becomes so important to you, and you're able to create your own stories. Those are just a book of stories of how we got where we got.
Great examples of how to become an entrepreneur. Chris Zane, congratulations.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Terrific business, and we love your